Hello, hello! So, if you clicked on this video, I assume you saw the video on Cole's channel from the song that we both made called The Girl from... I can't pronounce the last word yet. He's told me numerous times how to pronounce it, I just can't do it. I was the guy playing bass in the video, basically the biggest deal ever. But I thought, since I arranged and mixed the song, I thought it could be interesting to give you a bit of a look on how we kind of did it. Think of it more as like a DVD extra for a song. We'll be going through how we mixed it, how we tracked the instruments, and how we made it sound in a specific way. So for people who are maybe looking to learn how to mix or learn how to write and compose kind of a pop, rock, space, indie, whatever, a rock song, well, this is where I think this could be a very interesting video to kind of teach you. So let's get started. So here we have Reaper open, and I like to use Reaper because it's a cheap software, but it's don't let the price tag fool you. It's a really good software and you can do a lot of really great stuff with it. So our song is in D minor and the BPM is 119 and it's in 4/4. So we're not doing anything too weird or sophisticated, just a simple kind of kind of thing. And speaking of let's listen to our drums, because I like to usually, when I write a song, I usually like to get my drum sound first because it kind of determines kind of the entire feel of a song. And for my drums, I like to use a free VST called MT Power Drum Kit. It's not definitely the most advanced VST in the market, but you can definitely get some very interesting sounds out of it, especially if you're willing to incorporate different VSTs and EQ settings to it. So this is without anything, this is just simple drum, the drum by itself. That's okay, but we didn't want to get really a live drum sound from this. We wanted more of a drum machine sound, as if it was kind of sampled. And this does not allow you to kind of modify the sound, but we realized if we added this VST called Bias Effects 2, and I usually use this to record mostly guitar and bass. But if we found out that if you take a drum VST, and you added in a very standard just guitar amp, you could get a very interesting kind of mix of live drums and electric drums. So for example, now we get this. I'll make you a before and after comparison. And now with the amp. And then if you want to kind of compress it more, kind of get rid of the low and high frequencies on the EQ. And there is some EQ on the specifics. For example, this is just a snare track. So the snare is kind of, this is how it sounds. Getting rid of the high frequencies on the snare, just very simple EQ. Then the cymbals. Since something interesting about the cymbals is because cymbals are very noisy instruments, we had to kind of EQ the crap out of them so it wouldn't blare out, because this is without the EQ. This is what your cymbals sound like. Not exactly what we're looking for. And I believe the kick does not have any EQ. Just straight up regular kick, drum kick. All right, so now that we get our drum sound, let's go into our keyboard sounds. So I have a keyboard here, which for this, I use a lot of stuff specifically, but specifically for keyboards, I use a program called Easy Keys, which is right here. And I love to use the Dream Machine preset. So Easy Keys is really good because I'm a guitar player, so I don't know any music theory. The program kind of plays the chords for myself. So for example, I'm playing a melody, and I'm like, well, all right, I need a D chord on a piano. There you go. Or never mind, I want a B. So yeah, really good on that, because if you know the chord, I don't necessarily have to play it, but I know, I know what chord needs to be there. And for this, it's just an alternation of a D minor chord and a C chord that's being played. Yeah. And for this, a lot of EQ, because the specific template that I use called Freeze, very bassy, and we don't want it to occupy the more low frequencies. I want it to more occupy the mid and high frequencies, because the bass is going to occupy most of those frequencies. So without the EQ, this is what it sounds like. It's definitely interesting. That sounds definitely really cool when it's really bassy, but it's not really what we're looking for with the song. And same things with here. I am also boosting it with an amp, just so it sounds a bit more fizzy, which I really like. It has that hiss that's really that can really push it into the mix as well. And usually it'll come. The keyboards will kind of come back every now and then before the chorus or during a verse. So for example, here it comes in. So during the Anthropocene, you toss around abstract concepts and ideas, and it comes back again and again and again and again, and it comes back very predominantly during the end. Never, ever, ever gonna be enough. And there's one last thing. We wanted the outro to be a bit more interesting, so we made it give it a lo-fi kind of feel to it. And the easiest way to make something sound lo-fi is just to get rid of the low frequencies, the high frequencies, and boost the mid frequencies to give it kind of that telephone kind of feel to it. And then what I did on Bias Effects was I added a very powerful spring reverb, and a spring reverb is kind of different from an echo because it's I couldn't know how to explain to you, but essentially it makes your echo kind of go bling, for example. Again, without the reverb. With. I thought it was really cool because it added kind of the lo-fi effect to it, while also making it sound very old school. And now we go to the bass. Now, when we started recording the song, we started with the intro bass hook right here. And Coley really wanted kind of a boosted bass sound to be predominant throughout the song. Usually, I'm more comfortable playing metal music, and in metal music, the bass will never really be the lead instrument, more kind of to lock in with the guitar to give it a low frequency. So it's very interesting kind of treating the bass guitar as a lead instrument. Now let's kind of go into how I made it sound that way. First of all, I record all my instruments as DI, which means I plug directly into my computer, and then I play on my bass, and then I kind of add my amps and sound effects and EQing directly through the computer. So this is what the bass sounds like without anything. That's okay, but it's not really going to cut through a mix, so you really need to boost it with some stuff. So for example here, if I go into Bias Effects, I have kind of my own preset that I've used a lot when I'm doing more clean kind of songs. So it's not very distorted, it's kind of just to boost it and give it more of a presence. So I like to use this, which is, I think it's supposed to be an Ampeg bass clone. Anyway, it just really gives you a really interesting sound. So let me just play it to you. Now what's giving it really an interesting sound is the chorus pedal, because this is without the chorus pedal. And now with. Alright, and there's not too much. This is pretty much the sound it'll have throughout the entire kind of mix. Though I did kind of get rid of some low frequencies and high frequencies and mid frequencies, specifically because the bass occupies a lot of frequencies that you don't necessarily want. If you do it like that, it'll kind of work better and sit well in the mix a lot better. Alright, now the guitars. Now there are 3 different sounds of guitars specifically for this song, and we'll kind of start with them as they kind of go along. So let's start with our kind of clean guitars. So for the clean guitars, there is a guitar on the left channel and a guitar on the right channel. So we have 2 guitars playing at the same time and recorded differently. And I record my guitars the same way I do with my bass, directly into my computer, and then adding in the amps and effects in post. So not bad, that's okay. But I think it's more interesting if we listen to it by itself. So this is without anything. And I've centered this specific track, so you won't be listening to the guitar on one side of your headphones or speakers or whatever you're using. So this is just the dry track. That's boring as shit. So let's add some EQs. It's not necessarily important, just getting rid of the low frequencies and boosting some back in later in post. So for my post-punk sound, as I like to call it, I'm using 2 clean amps, Fender amps more specifically, and a reverb and a boost, and of course a chorus. And you'll get this sound. It's okay. I like it. Not anything too complex, but not anything, but really sits well, interestingly, in the mix. Yeah, now we're not gonna touch the vocals yet. That's a bit later. So now we're going into the chorus, and this is where I get to kind of have fun with more of my metal metal sound. And I'm just actually, which fun is I got to use more of a metal preset specifically for this. As you may see, it is literally called the metal preset. So it's not trying to hide. It's just a metal song. It's just a metal riff. That's fun. I like it. You're definitely not going to hear me complain. So I'm using, for my metal tone, I'm using a lot of noise gates to get rid of the that you'd get from heavy amp feedbacks. And I'm using a diesel clone and a PV5150, which for people who may not know, are just really are amps specifically made for heavy metal. Really aggressive, kind of in-your-face heavy metal. And I'm boosting that signal in the mid and high frequencies to really get that bite. So, way more crunchy, way more hissy. It gives you a way more interesting metal tone. And for that specific chorus, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of boost it even more. And for my solo tone, so for the solo, I got to write a solo. That was really fun. It was in the key of D minor, and it was on top of this specific guitar. So let me just make you listen real quick. But you may realize this solo specifically sounds harsh as shit, and it gets really an aggressive sound just to cut through. You won't really hear all of those harsh frequencies when it's mixed in with everything in the mix. So specifically, I'm using a different kind of amp for this, and I'm using a different kind of boost. And specifically for this solo, I'm using kind of a Mesa Boogie kind of clone, and I'm making it go through a lot of delay and reverb. Just the best way to get a really nice sounding solo is just adding a lot of delay and reverb, because you really make it sound wider and spacey. For example, this is a solo without. Sounds way more interesting. Really wider, really more, I guess, weird word to say, but I guess it sounds a bit more majestic. And anything to make a guitar solo sound more interesting, because generally people don't like them. Alright, now we get to the vocals, and the vocals were really interesting to do because we re-recorded them right here. So Cole was right next to me while we were recording, and he was very adamant about most of the time of doing one-take deliveries for most of everything. So we had to go through a lot of takes, but it gave really, really good performances, and really gives the song really an interesting flair and a really, really great sound. So this is, I don't know, he probably won't like that I'm doing this. I'm going to make you listen to his vocals without any effects, and here's what it sounds like.
Actualizing with you on a walk down 8 p.m. most euphoric I've ever been.
Great performance. Usually the most important thing when you're doing vocals is just a great performance. Like pitch correction and reverb and compression will make you sound good if you're not giving a good performance. But it will make your performance sit better in a mix. For example, without any effects, this is what the voice sounds and with the instruments.
Actualizing with you on a walk down 8 p.m. most euphoric high.
It's okay, but it sounds really out of place. Like it doesn't fit in. Like it's sitting on top of a mix. And a good way to do that, for starters, is just giving it kind of again, the lo-fi kind of treatment, where you get rid of most of the low and mid frequencies and boosting the highs.
Actualizing with you on a walk down 8 p.m. most euphoric I've ever.
Harsh, but we can get rid of that by doing all of this kind of effects. Also, again, bias effects for vocals. You can do that. I do it because I really like how it sounds, but necessarily some people might say that's not really the best way to do it. But I think it works really good. So I say if it sounds good, then just do it. So this is what it sounds like with a bit of compression, a bit of flanger, and some delay and reverb. So this is what it sounds like by itself.
Actualizing with you on a walk down 8 p.m. most euphoric I've ever been. Not too shabby as we live through a strike.
I like it. Sounds really good. Great performance. But when the problem is for example, if we go to the chorus with the more heavy guitar, his voice doesn't really cut through because it's not loud enough. So when we get to the chorus, I actually double his vocals with a very cave echo, and to just kind of boost him, so he sounds like he's in the same volume during the chorus. So this is what it sounds like. And now in the context of the whole mix. Way better. And during the verses, the kind of hook, as we call it, we have him saying this line, and it's being overdubbed, just so it sounds more full.
The girl from Ganymede.
A lot of length in the echo and the reverb, and it kind of sounds really good in the full mix. So just to make you an example.
The girl from Ganymede, a millennium shy, but you really ought to see the falcon on her thigh.
And again, it's usually, again, echo for this, echo for that, and it's usually a pretty standard thing. We just kind of did the performance, added a bit of EQing, and it went down really quick just because he didn't rely on pitch correction, he didn't rely on punching ins, and it was really, really standard kind of thing because he just did a great job. So yeah. If you want it to be fun to add vocals, just make sure you have a good singer with you, because then it's just garbage. When I'm doing songs, I usually avoid adding vocals because I'm not a good vocalist. All right, now we're going more to the final touches. So just for example, in the beginning and the end, because the song kind of had a spacey kind of vibe to it, and the story very much relate to space travel and stuff like that, I thought it'd be interesting to add kind of a radio frequency about in the beginning and the end, though it's not actually rocket ship transmissions, it's actually from an airport.
Jet 55, County, good morning. Full route, you ready to copy that? Go right ahead.
And again, you have it here at the end too.
5 DME, and then turn right heading 100.
It's cool. It kind of make sure that there's no really awkward empty spaces. And at the end, just to add a bit more ambiance, I asked Cole to give me a bit of breathing, and I added a bit of effects to kind of make the intro more interesting. So this is what it sounds by itself.
Alpha.
A bit weird, but it's interesting in the concept and in a full mix. So here's the example.
5 DME, then turn right heading 100. Further vectors wavy, whiskey, Alpha.
It's a bit subtle, but if you pay attention, you'll hear it, and then when you hear it, you'll never be able to unhear it again. Real fun. So that was more or less the entire kind of progress of how I did it. Really fun to work on, really fun to kind of pitch these ideas and arrange the entire thing. Really fun to do more songs with vocalists. So I think it really gave a really interesting mix and really fun to work on. And I may be doing more tutorials on how we mix the further songs in on the albums that we plan to make. And if you really like that idea and you want to maybe learn or see more what I'm doing on my channel, I would really like it if you would subscribe. Of course, you don't have to, but you know, if it's something that interests you, I would highly recommend it.